Hey, 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 this is Ron the Wanderer. I'm Mani Nabaraka, and once again, I'm coming to you to give you some experiences of my own and some thoughts of mine that I'm going to bring to you. If you didn't see my first video, I suggest you check it out on my page. It's called The Thought. But this one is going to be called In Love Relationships. And it's a long one. I read from cue cards, so I can always look into the camera because I need to read. I can't remember everything. But I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to break this down into several parts because it's kind of long. Okay? So the first thing in this is in love relationship. Many people has been in love with a significant other. They felt true and heartfelt. Nothing could stand in the way of what their heart felt. We overlooked the red flags, complacency, danger, betrayal. We were in love with fantasy and illusions of we manifested in our emotions. Wow. This I was in love with. And you notice I said in love with, not love. I can love a pet. I can love my job. I can love to eat. But I'm in love. When I'm in love, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. When I'm in love, I'm in love. I put all my spirit into it, my mental into it, my emotions into it, my physical into it. I put everything in it because I feel this love that I so imagine. That's why I called it a fantasy, because I don't know what true love really is. I know my mom gave me love, a son, mother love, and I understood that love. But when I got grown and got into a female, it was a different kind of love. So all the thing I knew was that mother-son love, that nurturing, and it was quite different from the female that I met because that was more physical, if you understand what I'm saying, you know. And I mixed the nurturing love of my mother with the physical love with that woman. And next you know, I got confused what love is. I thought it was love and I was feeling, so I felt like I was in love. Didn't understand. And I had a lot of habits. And here I wrote, habits are hard to break. You heard it said, we heard it said in many ways in cliches like, habits are hard to break. But habits are difficult to break, not hard. They're difficult when I don't want to accept what's really going on. It becomes difficult. When I don't want to change, it becomes difficult. When it becomes hard, it's because I refuse to do anything about it. Even if I knew the right way of something, it becomes hard. But it's really just a difficult thing because it's a difficult thing to practice the right thing for the right reasons. So we have feelings and are mostly moved by our feelings. And when moved by feelings and emotions, we see what we imagine to be real. We hear what we imagine to be real. And sometimes it's real enough. And sometimes it's unbreakable. Sometimes it's long lasting. That happens when two people align with each other. They bring their spirit, emotions, truth, commitment to the table. Wow. Let me tell you something. When I imagine the love, the fantasy that I told you about, then I bring it to my forefront, and I believe it's love. I see what I believe is real. I hear what I believe is real. I feel what I believe is real, and sometimes it is real. Sometimes the other person reciprocates to that. Sometimes not. So sometimes it's unbreakable because when two people align, nobody can separate us apart. When God puts two people together, and it can be long lasting. And sometimes it's very short because it happens when two people align. But what happens when they're not aligned? But when two people are aligned, things work well. And we learn through mistakes. We learn through communication. We learn through understanding each other. This is an action of love. Communicating with one another, learning how to work through things instead of surrendering at the first sight of I can't handle this or don't understand this. I surrender, I give it up, I'm breaking up with you, all that nonsense. It's about communication. They bring their spirit, emotions, truth, commitments to the table. And this is what is meant when we say, what do you bring to the table? Wow. What do you bring to the table? Do you bring peace to the table? Some people bring to the table, when you ask them that, they talk about physical things. They bring a certain amount of money to the table. I work a job and I make a certain amount of money per year. So this is what I bring to the table to pay bills and rent and so forth. And I can bring food to the table. I can bring my love to your children or our children if we have children. But if you find a woman that has children, you might want to bring some understanding to her and her children and so forth. But that's physical stuff. But can you bring peace to the table? Can you bring understanding to the table? Can you bring communication to the table? Can you bring fruits of the spirit to the table? Can you bring love to the table? And we learn how to love in a spiritual way. But can you bring that to the table? They don't siphon off each other's energy. They replenish energy of each other. This is love in action, caring, listening, doing things for the other, learning about each other for improvement with each other, committing to each other. But the key words are each other. I'm going to tell you something. I've lived a life of self-centered thinking, selfishness, selfish. And when I get involved with another person, I have no idea if that person has been selfish, self-centered, and self-righteous and self-absorbed. And if I meet her and we seem to have something in common, and it could be a negative thing in common, that can be an attraction, and we might fall in love because we both have the same thing in common. Doesn't mean it's a good thing in common, but we portray the same thing so we can connect. And somebody on the outside looking in can say, oh, they're just lovebirds. And they don't know the chaos they're creating each other. They have no idea. It says whatever. You see them in love, but you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Check that out, right? But when we are in line with each other, when we are spiritually grown with each other, and we're showing action, some care, some love, some understanding, some working through, some listening skills to each other, some silent skills to each other, it could be a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when this happens. That's always the case. But what happens when we don't align with each other? Remember I was just saying that? When selfish intentions are displayed, when we feel or even see that is a one-sided relationship, if we call it that. I've always became angry and less than and rebounded, low self-esteem, not good for my spiritual growth. It hinders everything I'm striving for because I'm emotionally focused on what's hurting me. Can't eat, can't sleep. My mind's in deep thought of what bothers me. This is not healthy. Wow. See, when negativity comes in, my own thought. Now, I'm not even going to talk about her. I'm just talking about me. When self-centeredness kicks in, and I think all of myself and not her, I don't care what she's doing. I'm talking about me. And I become selfish with communicating with her, and I just do things without running it past her. And I feel like most people feel like if I run it past my significant other, I feel like I'm asking my parents for permission on something or their advice on something. But this is my significant other. I'm supposed to be growing together with my significant other. I'm supposed to be doing things together with my significant other. I'm supposed to be having an understanding with my significant other. So it's not a parent type of relationship. It's an understanding relationship. It's a partnership. It's a bonding of two people becoming one. So I need to communicate with my partner. If I was by myself, I'd communicate by myself. So why not communicate with my partner? Because if I don't, things I do, let me tell you, like I just said, I become angry. I feel like I'm being misused and abused and rebounded, and my self-esteem becomes low. It hits the floor like, plat. But this is how I feel. I can't speak for her. I can speak for me. Okay? And all I can think of is what bothers me. Let me see here. I emotionally focus on what's hurting me. Can't eat, can't sleep. I just focus on what's bothering me. It's not healthy. How do I get back peace? How do I get back happiness? How do I reconnect with my higher power? Because that has stopped. Wow. It stopped because I'm thinking about myself and my fantasies, and when my fantasies aren't met, I become angry. I become disillusioned of what is really going on. I don't even think about her. I'm still thinking about me, and she's not even in the picture. Just like God is not in the picture, because I done stepped out of God's grace and went into my own thing, and God permitted it. He's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do. Never has. So I need to create some discipline with myself. I can't force her to sit back and work through it with me if I don't want to change my own self. I need to want to change myself, and hopefully she wants to change herself, and we both can work through the thing together. But if it's just a one-sided relationship and I feel misused and abused and manipulated, I'm going to really go back to all my selfish, self-centered ways before I left the house of my mother and father. And she's going to see a really rough person. She's going to really see who I really am, and I may not want her to see that because I'm all confused. But I don't know how to get it back. How do I get my peace back? I thought I was at peace before I met her, and I tried to blame her, but it isn't her, it's actually me. How do I get that back? You know, I wrote right here, how do I get my peace back? How do I get my happiness back? How do I reconnect with my higher power? Because it all has stopped. I daydream of the fantasy I've been hoping for. I never realized that I can get myself back together with acceptance. That's how I can get it back. Acceptance. I accept things in my life. I accept that she is different from me, and I accept that she's dealing with me like I'm trying to deal with her. But why do I always think I'm the one that's dealing with her and never think that she's dealing with me? Because I think I'm perfect? So I don't think that it's necessary for you to want to deal with me, but I have to deal with you because I think you're full of flaws. I'm living in an illusion. I have to come to some acceptance. And when things come to a point where it's not the way I want it, where I feel like it's not the way I fantasize it, I have to accept what hurts me. Accept, like I said, accept that it hurts, but I can move on. Accept that I can let go of what pains me and move on. And move on in my higher power's care. I accept that I'm hurting myself by holding on to my fantasies that's not going my way. There's a lot of emotions that stay on my heart. And if I don't let go of them, it can be a distraction to move on. Wow.